Unlike chess, weiqi pieces are all the same and are used similarly in the game. Just like the weiqi pieces, our individual efforts may be insignificant, but together, all of us play a part, and any one of us can be that strategic piece in the evolving formation to win the game as the circumstances evolve. Our government will continue to lead where it must and can. We will strive to do more and do better. But having said that, we are realistic enough to know that our government cannot do it all, and certainly not alone. We aspire to evolve from delivering for Singaporeans to also delivering with Singaporeans. Let me first start with security. We must prepare ourselves for a much wider range of scenarios than ever before, including dangerous discontinuities. Compared to the past, we all can now access much more information and travel more widely. There will also be no shortage of external influences that attempt to shape our views and hopefully our positions. To safeguard ourselves from being pulled apart in different directions, we will need to understand our own interests, read and think deeply, speak widely to different people to understand their perspective and agenda, and also to access content with discernment. Only when we deeply understand ourselves and the world that we are operating in, can we come up with propositions that are relevant for our partners so that we can be of value add in the relationship. It is a discipline to not just view or read what the search engine algorithms throw at us. It is also a discipline to seek out fresh perspective with all the people we meet in our travels to hopefully bring back new ideas and stress test our own assumptions. I learned this when I was younger and I was deployed to Indonesia after the fall of Suharto. We made it a discipline to travel out of Jakarta at least 7 days a month. We make sure that we cover as many provinces, as many regional commands as we can, making new friends, understanding the diversity of perspective, and never kid ourselves that just because we have been to Jakarta and Bali, that therefore we seem to understand Indonesia. While we will not take sides, we must take positions based on principles. Principles that best promote Singapore's long-term survival and success. Neutrality is especially a dangerous concept for small states. Trying to maintain neutrality and balancing without principles will only invite contesting larger powers to put more pressure on us and to try to shift our balancing point. And that is why I always encourage all Singaporeans to make a nuanced but important distinction between saying that we are neutral and that we are principled. We need to have our own perspectives and not be a mouthpiece or proxy for others. We need to develop capabilities that cannot be easily replicated by others. The ability to think and execute long-term. The ability to build trust internally and externally. The ability to foster cohesion amidst diversity. But ultimately, we need real capabilities in all domains from economics to defense for others to see value in working with us. External parties have asked me what makes the SAF strong. Our disciplined investment in equipment and people over the years have certainly helped. But to me, the biggest advantage of the SAF has over many others is that we can draw upon the talent and energies of our entire nation. We will continue to spend wisely and consistently. As warfare is redefined, we will make judicious decisions on what to buy, what to build, and what to co-develop with partners. Timeliness rather than perfection matters more very often. Let me now move to economics. We also must earn our keep. No one deals with Singapore out of charity or sympathy. We also need to create our own value propositions. This means deeply understanding the market needs and identifying what I call acupuncture points that make it harder for people to bypass us. To do so, we will double down on our man-made competitive advantages. It is often said that Singapore has no natural resources, but Singapore has many man-made competitive advantages. First, we will continue to invest in our education and workforce, not just for the first 15 years, but for the next 50 years when they are beyond the school years. By uplifting everyone to embrace the latest technological tools to enhance our productivity. That's why AI is part of this important effort, where we have a program called AI for Everyone, just as what we have done for the computerization drive in the late 80s, early 1990s. Second, our ability to uphold the rule of law for investors to have the confidence to mobilize their capital, aggregate their talent, and protect their IP here will remain important and more so than ever before. Third, having a stable government and forward-looking public service so that investors can be confident that we think and execute long-term. This is especially for investments like pharma and semicon that require a long gestation period. And as societies mature and become more developed, there is always the risk that resources as well as disadvantages get passed on from generation to generation. And therefore, the more successful we are, the greater the dangers we face, and the more we need to double and redouble our efforts to break this intergenerational transfer of disadvantage. And over the years, as Minister Desmond Lee has said, we have rolled out various programs, Kickstart, Uplift, Comcare, Comlink Plus, you name it, we will try it. We are doing this not just only in the early years of a child's life. We are systematically combing through the entire life cycle of a person to see how we can help everyone who needs the help to break that cycle. But having said this, we are not done. All these programs by themselves will not be enough. Each of us, even those of us who may not feel that we have the most, can and must contribute in our own ways to support those with less and to uplift the less privileged to keep our society mobile. As we hear the calls to do more for various groups, each one meritorious in its own right, we must also be clear-eyed that because resources are finite, we will need to come to a societal consensus about who we should help more. This means that some of us will have to moderate our expectations because there are others who need help more than we do. Everyone gets help, everyone gets something. But not all of us will get the same. And I'm sure members of the House also agree with me that it also doesn't make sense for all of us to get the same. Different strokes for different folks, each according to our needs. I think all of us can agree on this. So let us not be divided by invidious comparison when this is actually executed. Each of these reflect our determination to deliver greater value and to do better things with our finite resources. On the other hand, we must also not copy blindly, but be bold enough to look for our own solutions. And even for something like the CPF, we have continuously evolved it over the years, expanding from retirement savings to meet housing and healthcare needs, while providing stronger safety nets for our elderly and vulnerable. Each of these decisions took courage, clarity of vision, and a willingness to chart our path and the conviction to see it through. Now, as the challenges confronting Singapore are multi-dimensional, we will also need the public service to acquire new capabilities. The public service will continue to remain open and attract diverse talent, including mid-careerists, and provide opportunities for officers to gain exposure to the private and people's sector. And now, increasingly important, we must also expose our officers to the international organizations. However, just as over the course of this week, we have heard many new ideas, many new demands, and all of that will ultimately translate into some form of resources required. In the many committees of supply debate that I have attended in this House, we have not had to make very difficult decisions on what to cut in order to fund what we want to do more. We have been fortunate. We have a growing pie. But it is not the natural order of things in most countries. Even so, we should maintain our discipline. We must focus on growing the overall economic pie for us to have the options and the luxury to make easier decisions. The challenges ahead will be different from those in the past, but the core principles remain: to anticipate change, to be bold, to be innovative and pragmatic in finding solutions that work for us, and keep building a fair, strong, united Singapore for generations to come.